the VET S.O.S Veteran Entrepreneur Spotlight. Remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline. The Veteran Entrepreneur Spotlight is proud to be affiliated with the Neil Haley Show and sponsored by Spearpoint Solutions. Spearpoint Solutions is a one-stop shop for leading-edge products, services, and training from multiple vendors, from AI training to corporate gifts and much more. They have everything you need to help your organization thrive in the modern economy, and you can check out all their valuable offerings at Spearpoint online. And remember to use the code VETSOS on anything you purchase there. That'll help us to continue our mission and what we're doing to bring information to you. Today we're sitting down with Justin Henderson, Marine veteran and founder of Veteran Hiring Solutions. VHS is a video-based job description platform that brings real voices, real leaders, and real environments into the hiring process. He was raised south of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a setting that instilled in him a deep sense of community, humility, and mission-first values. He served as a motor transportation operator in the Marine Corps Reserves and holds a degree in economics from the University of Pittsburgh. How you doing today, Justin?
I'm great. I'm excited to be in this conversation. Thanks again, Sean. You know, it's a good day to pass on a good word, right?
Oh, absolutely. And so excited to have you on here. This revolutionized approach you're taking, really looking forward to getting into that. But before we do that, let's start with your transition. Tell us a little bit about how your transition went out of the military.
Yeah, you know, I'm old enough. So I went in before September 11th. 94 is when I signed up, went in 95. Marine Corps Reserve. So I did my training, went back home, started college, earned my degree. So I have a kind of non-traditional from the active duty side. You know, I transitioned out as a reservist with a degree. And like so many people I've heard over the last 19 years of helping them transition, I couldn't find anybody to look at my military training, my military experience as a value add to my education. And so my transition was, like a lot of people, it was networking and luck. You know, I was managing a restaurant in Newport News, Virginia, after I graduated college. 3 Marines walked into my bar. And those 3 Marines got jobs through a direct placement firm. And that's what opened my eyes up to this industry, to this process. I applied to them. They said, hey, you have no technical skills. You're not a staff NCO. We can't really help you, but we'll give you a sales job. And in 2006, that's when I entered the staffing market for veterans.
Okay. All right. It sounds like the beginning of a joke, you know. A couple
I'm telling you, 3 Marines walked into my bar.
I absolutely love it. All right, so then what led you to want to become an entrepreneur?
Well, you know, it's a calling almost that, one, I didn't want to answer for a while. You know, it had been about 2 years that I had known that this video-based job description model was making a huge impact in the community. And I felt like I was uniquely built with my experiences and my motivation to bring it to the world. And so the opportunity came up, and it really was just one of those moments that I, you know, kind of like when you join the military, it's like, all right, let's just pull the ripcord and go. And so I did. And that was, we opened the doors April last year, 2024. And it's just been amazing. You know, it really has. And what you find is like, the more you give, and this is for everybody that's transitioning out and really just a life lesson, the more you put in the emotional bucket of other people, right? The more you give. When moments like this come up, for me, when I started VHS, the amount of people that came to me and said, hey, how can I help? Right? What do you need? Because you helped me during my transition, or you helped me during this. And so that's one lesson I learned as an entrepreneur. It's like, when you put yourself out there and you give, it's amazing what the community will give back to you.
So that's a great point. You know, we talk about, you know, volunteering and giving of your time and that impact you're going to have. You just never know how that's going to reciprocate itself, you know, and in your time of need, it a lot of times will manifest itself for sure. But no, that's fantastic. So what's been the best and the worst part about being an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So the best part is it's your ideas, right? It's your process. You're implementing it. So that's a lot of fun of going, you know, being that Lance Corporal that had all the right ideas. And now all of a sudden I get to try to say if I really had all the right ideas. And so that's been a lot of fun of just understanding what I had right, what I had wrong, learning tech. You know, I couldn't spell AI before I started this company. And now we have an AI bot that's embedded inside of our system that our team uses all day, every day. We have AI bots on our website that help train the veterans to win interviews and personal transitions. And so I think the best part was was the learning and that challenge. You know, being a veteran, there's a point where you realize, hey, I'm kind of a V8 engine, and like sometimes I just want to I want to hit the pedal down, and I want to really challenge myself, and so that reawakened that in me, of that like, oh yeah, let's put a lot on my shoulders because I enjoy it, and I think that's probably the biggest benefit. The challenge is not knowing enough, you know, not knowing finance in depthly, not knowing invoicing, like some of these things that just come with running a business. But again, what has been most rewarding is just the community coming to me going, hey, you need some help? Hey, what do you got? You know, the person that built our bots for our website on Mission and Power, you know, he built the assessment program for the Navy SEALs. He's currently head of AI and assessment for a Global 100 company, a world leader. And he did it for free for us because he knows that if we can help a veteran transition safely out of uniform into a purpose-driven job within that first 6 months of transition, that's everything. And so he is solely focused on that. So there's another example of people giving.
That's fantastic. And it's definitely, you don't know what you don't know sometimes, right? And
Yeah.
you go into the whole process and you're like, ooh, hey, I'm a little over my head right now.
You know, the beauty of service is, right? It's like, okay, like nobody's going to die today, right? What I'm doing is not shooting anybody or being shot at. And so, okay, I got a full plate. Let me grab my fork, let me grab my knife and start eating. And that's it.
To me, that is just understated way too much. Is, you know, the way that veterans look at things and approach things, especially those who have been to combat zones. You know, when you take a step back and realize, yeah, nobody's shooting at me today. I don't have to shoot anybody today. As far as I know, there's no mortars coming.
Yep.
You know, it's like the whole view of life is completely different, and I don't think that can be stated enough. Just the impact that has on the way we approach things, the way we look at things, and the way we're able to handle, let's air quote, pressure situations. You know,
Yeah.
Definition of pressure is definitely different.
Well, you set the bar, right? You set your body and your mind's bar of what stress is. You know, one of my favorite things to do when I'm in these moments is I trick my mind in the morning. I wake up and go, woo, made it. Because one of these days you're not going to. And so when I wake up and say that in the morning in a stressful day and I know I'm having a day, it reframes my brain. Like, oh, right, yeah, right, man, we're good. Like, not getting shot at, nothing bad, you're good. You're just hitting ones and zeros. You're going to be fine.
I should start doing that now.
Yeah, my wife doesn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
She's like,
4
really?
o'clock.
You know?
4 o'clock in the morning, the alarm goes off. Woo!
Yep. She's like, really? But she rolls over. I'm like, it's going to be a good day. See ya. Yeah.
24 years of marriage. We'll see if we can make it to 25 once I start doing that.
Yeah, right. Hey, free night on the couch.
Yep.
Comes after
All right.
that.
So, did you or have you used any, programs? You know, there's a lot of veteran programs out there to help with entrepreneurship. There's a lot of just regular programs out there too that are not affiliated with the military. Have you used any of those?
Yeah, IVMF is probably the biggest one for me. Institute for Veterans and Military Families out of Syracuse, New York. We went to an event here in Portsmouth last year and met so many volunteers. You know, we connected with Northeastern University. They selected us for a class that starts on the 19th of May, where they redo our entire website, the UX UI experience for free. It's part of the class. Then the capstone is actually completing the website. You know, and then there's the Massachusetts Veterans Chamber of Commerce, Lisa. She's like she's retired Air Force, one of the most amazing humans ever. So if you're a veteran, you know, IVMF is the first place to go. The first. Go there, get connected, start talking to people. We went to an event in Dallas about a month and a half ago. It was it's called Edge. And there was 400 veteran entrepreneurs there for 3 days. And it was just, you know, the networking and the mentality, right? The classes were educational, but the community that was built there, the relationships that were built. I have a new salesperson coming out of there, an Air Force veteran, you know, and she's killing it. So I would say IVMF is by far the number one for me.
Yeah, and many people who've been on the show have said the exact same thing. And I know I've gone through the IVMF program. with the new revamped Bunker Labs being a part of it.
Yep.
So just the resources they have, the program they have, second to none. And the other thing you stated that definitely cannot be stated enough as well is the Chamber of Commerce. I know down here we have a veteran chambers of commerce. A lot of places have those.
Yep.
Getting involved in that and really starting to understand your local community and connecting with fellow veteran entrepreneurs. It's
just the purpose-driven attitude in the room was like humbling to me when I first sat down. I was like, whoa, everybody's like, I'm not the weird one anymore. Like, everybody feels this way, and everybody gets up at 4 a.m. and just starts working on their company because they're passionate, or everybody, so you're not on an island. And if you feel like you're on an island right now as an entrepreneur, you're not. And so IVMF is a safe place to go, good people. And same with LinkedIn, find vets that you served with, find vets that were in your same unit, find vets that are doing the same thing as you, trying to solve the same problem, because you're going to find a lot of selflessness. I am blown away by the selflessness.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All right, so tell us about Veteran Hiring Solutions. What are you doing with this? What's the goal? How can we get involved?
All right, so time to get on the soapbox. No, this is really my passion. Going into this industry in 2006, I quickly realized that the job description was the greatest barrier to entry for the veteran job seeker. It was built in the early 1900s. It was really implemented during the Great Depression, 24% unemployment rate. And it was built to exploit specific experience from a specific pathway. And that's not us. And also, it's my belief that service to country makes you a high-performing human. And the first thing corporate America does is take the human out of it. They take the human out of the experience. So for us, what we're doing is we're bringing that humanity back to hiring. And how we do that is we do video-based job descriptions. So think about that commander in front of you doing the commander's intent before you go out on a mission. It's that. So we have that hiring manager on camera. And I talk to that person. First, we believe that people don't follow companies, they follow leaders. Yep. So that person talks about their history, their experience, what brought them to that moment at that company. Then we walk through a day in the life of the job. So that way that veteran can see themselves working there and connect the dots on their own. And then my favorite part, as we walk through the challenges this person has to overcome when they first start the job, because every high performer wants to be challenged, right? Hey, I'm a leader. What problems do I get to solve when I get there? And then at the end, we just kind of make sure we've covered everything we want to cover. But what it does is it puts that human at the forefront. It puts the humanity up front. It puts our strengths up front. And what's really neat is when that veteran applies to the role, they've got their resume. Here's my exploitation document. I know you need that. But they're normally presenting solutions. Hey, I watched the video from Marcelo, and I know that they need to implement this program. I did that in the Navy. Here's how I did it. And so now that hiring authority who wants to hire a human gets to see how that human's brain works.
Nice.
And so it's just been the most wonderful, because it's not exploitation, right? It's empowerment. And so the empowering part of our program has been so great because the managers, every time we get on camera, after they go through a program, they're smiling at us. When you talk to the veteran, they're like, oh my God, I understand what I'm doing. I've got a good leader, because we understand the value of leadership. Yeah. We get to vet our leader on the front end, right? You think about how many vets have gone through, hey, I've gone through a video interview with an AI bot that took me an hour. I had to take an assessment that took me 2 hours. I talked to HR, that took me an hour. I talked to this guy, it took me an hour. And then I sat down in front of my leader and went, oh, I don't want to work for you. And that happens. That happens. And so we stop that from happening. So now that leader, that hiring authority, they're only getting like-minded applicants. They're only getting people that are like-minded because of that video connection.
That's fantastic. And, it's the approach on your experience is an interesting one to me. Because when I transitioned, and still to this day, sitting down, going through interviews, everybody sort of approaches it different from the hiring side. And I sat in one interview where the hiring authority looked at me at the end. He goes, like everything you said related to the military, I just retired a year ago. It was the last 20 years of my life, but okay, I see your point.
Yeah.
I'll work on trying to tailor how I tell my stories so they're not all military, but and then sat through another one where they go, no, I want to hear the experience from the military. I want the specific examples from the military, and you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
Yeah. Well, and the noise, right? There's so much noise out there because so many people are trying to help, whether they have the skill to or not.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get some of the messaging or experience to or not. The messaging conflicts. Yeah. Well, that's also why I really like this program. So subconsciously, like minds connect. And then, we verbalize that afterwards. So if you're at a party and all of a sudden you connect with, you just gravitate to somebody and start talking, that connection happens subconsciously. You're reading social cues. So by getting that hiring manager on camera, we're actually doing that. We're lowering the cognitive load that it takes for that veteran to understand the role and see themselves in there, which increases their emotional fluency. So they really see it and can envision themselves. It's like live. What's interesting, again, truck driver turned scientist here. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional communication, which means our subconscious thinks we're in the same room right now. And so what will happen is if you're watching like an action movie, your mirror neurons will kick on. And those turn on when you're doing something or see somebody do something. So think, all right, there's a firefight, and you do this. That means your mirror neurons are fully on. Your subconscious is in that environment. And there's another thing called the mirror exposure effect. That's how our brains become familiar and comfortable with people that are on camera. Again, because we think we're in that room. Right? You're in my office right now with me, subconsciously. So by getting that hiring manager on camera, giving the commander's intent, now that veteran can see themselves, envision themselves in there, understand where they can make an impact. But more importantly, we've just made that hiring manager Jerry Seinfeld. And so now when that veteran goes to sit down and have that first interview, the mirror exposure effect takes over, and they're familiar and comfortable with that person. They just talk to him like they're Jerry Seinfeld. And so the first time that hiring manager goes to that first interview with a veteran, they're blown away. They're like, whoa, he just started talking to me. Like, we had immediate rapport. And I'm like, yeah, because he's watched your video multiple times. Subconsciously, you're in his living room, you're in his bedroom, wherever he watched that video, you were there. And because of the mirror exposure effect, you're now a friend. So we're using the same manipulation that is being used against us all day, every day. We're just using it in an authentic way. Pretty cool.
I love this, and I love how you explain that. But the military side of me went immediately to he was in the bathroom with me. Because that's where you're watching everything on your phone, and okay, here we go.
But so we got an offer for a guy yesterday for a documentation specialist role, and he has a PhD. And I said, hey, Jerry, you're a nerd, because he had a PhD. He goes, I am. And we're cracking a joke talking. I said, hey, and I started walking through the mirror exposure. And he goes, yeah, I know what it is. He goes, that's why I watched that video 3 times before I walked into the final interview, because I knew what it would do to my brain. And I was like, that's wild. Wild.
All right, so where's the best place the audience can connect with you and your business?
So veteranhiringsolutions.com is our website. It's our job board. I will tell you, go there and check out Mission and Power. So our Mission and Power tools were built by the same person that built the assessment program for the Navy SEALs. He is currently a head of AI and assessment for Global Fortune 100. But there's an individual transition program there for you that'll take your experience and also your internal motivators and drivers and help you understand where there's a good job. We have an interview trainer, and then we have a communication bot for when you're leading in civilian workplace. So definitely check that out. It's free. It's there for you guys to use. And then LinkedIn. That's really where I hang out the most. So please connect with me on LinkedIn, Justin Henderson. I'm easy to find. And then Veteran Hiring Solutions Forum is our forum that we have on LinkedIn. It's a group just hiring managers, job postings. That's all I let in. So job seekers, job postings, hiring managers. Check it out. And then, of course, our company page on LinkedIn.
Outstanding. And Justin, thank you for joining us today. Fantastic. Love what you're doing. Changing the whole landscape. It's just fantastic. And on behalf of the VET S.O.S family, we want to thank everybody for tuning in today. And remember, you can find VET S.O.S on all your favorite platforms, YouTube, podcast platforms. We're on Reach Across America. And as always, make sure you subscribe and follow so you're not missing a thing. And remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline.